And welcome once again to Road to State House. I am Malik Jones and happy to be back again on Star Television. My guest tonight is Mr. Mambajik. My Magic, welcome.
Thank you so much, Malik.
Well, I'll have to cut it short like that because everybody knows you as Mambajik.
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, Mambajik, you are the Administrative Secretary of the National People's Party, NPP. Tell us something about your party.
Thank you so much, Malik. The National People's Party was created as a necessity, particularly given the fact that everybody knows that the leader and Secretary General of the National People's Party was one time a member of the United Democratic Party, given he resigned from the party in the run-up to the 2016 elections. But everybody knew that in his heart, he was still UDP. But as time went on and the coalition government was making giant strides in trying to reform the governance system in this country and to also restore democracy in this country, you know, there's always the inevitable. Because, you know, coalitions in general are very fragile, and too often, you know, before they even understand what they have got to do, you know, you can see the fragmentation. And this fragmentation led to, you know, a big rift between the President of the Republic, His Excellency Adama Barrow, and the United Democratic Party, which, you know, necessitated the establishment of his own political party. But then the party came into existence after the 2019 Midi People's Tour. It was during that tour that so many of the Gambian people who attended those meetings made their intentions known to the president, that they would have preferred him to form his own political party. And it was immediately, or during the last day of that Midi People's Tour, which was held in Banjul, that he made the announcement that he was going to establish his own political party. And the political party was registered on 31st December of last year. And the primary objective of registering the National People's Party is to change the way we do politics in this country, to redefine, you know, our political debate, to kind of bring the national discourse into perspective, to ensure that it is no longer about character assassination, it is no longer about, you know, trying to, you know, discredit people. It should no longer be about personality issues, but really taking the debate to another level, to ensure that we talk about issues and policies, we talk about strategies, we talk about how do we intend to transform the country from a third world to a first world. And this is precisely why the NPP was registered. And, you know, listening to the president talk about, you know, the principles of the party and why he believes, you know, establishing his own political party was a necessity, then you come to realize that really NPP has come to change the way we do politics in this country.
You have been moving steadily and cautiously in the absence of launching the party. What have you been doing?
Well, you know, I have always said that launching a party is all about the razzmatazz, the ambience, the fanfare, and probably also to demonstrate to the people that you have the numbers. But the most important thing in a political party is the structures of the party. And because we've not been able to launch the party because of the COVID-19, so we thought it necessary that we need to now focus on establishing the structures of the party. And that is why, you know, over the past weeks, we've been out and about, you know, in all the regions in this country to establish the regional committees, which have been successfully completed. And we are now working on the National Executive Committee. We have a political council. Some call it a political council, but for me, it's an ad hoc executive committee because we've not gone to Congress yet, and we're going to maintain that until after 2021 when we go to the National Congress. So now what we are trying to do is to now, you know, gradually transform that political council into the executive committee of the political party, and, you know, which will lead the party until after the 2021 presidential elections. The other most important thing also is the issue of the National Youth Wing as well as the National Women's Wing, which are already in place, but what is yet to establish is what is yet to be established is now the executive committee, the National Youth Wing Executive Committee and the National Women's Wing Executive Committee, which we'll hope to achieve soon. As soon as the National Executive Committee is established, then the next step is to establish the National Youth Wing Executive and the National Women's Wing Executive, so that they too should start working on the programs and policies of the party.
Where is the National People's Party drawing its strength from?
One, from the young people, and two, from the women. Because these are two constituencies that are of great importance and significance in terms of electing any leader in this country. Because you put the youth and women together, they form the bigger chunk of the population. But what is most important is that we have in our midst people who understand that it cannot be business as usual, where political parties will just have to use these women and youths for political gain. We believe as a party that we need to come up with projects that will help us to engage our militants positively, but to also help them create employment, but also to ensure that we will be able to lure militants of other parties into our party. Because once we are able to create jobs, once we are able to give them tangible results in terms of wealth creation, they should be able to now make the decision that, look, NPP is the right party to join. Because as far as I am concerned, as far as so many people within the NPP are concerned, it should not be about just, using these young men and women, just to clap, to dance, to sing songs for our party leaders. No, the narrative has got to change. There has to be a paradigm shift from the way we used to do politics and the way we have to do politics now. Because politics is not supposed to be a game of just coming to say nice things to the people, just to get their votes. And at the end of the day, they are left to wallow in poverty. We believe, and in fact, as we speak, the Secretariat is working on developing some project proposals. I've already developed some proposals on poultry. I am working on one on livestock. We're going to do one on bakery. We're going to do one on maize production. Because all these are important in the socio-economic development of this country. Not only will it create jobs for these young people, but it will also engage our militants positively to ensure that it is no longer going to be a situation where they just come and sit in the political bureau and argue unnecessarily, talk about things that are of no significance to the development of this country and even to their own personal development. So this is why we believe that the youth and the women are going to be the core to our success stories.
You mentioned that you were going to lure youths and women into your party. You've given me a very tangible answer to that, vis-a-vis you will come up with projects. Now, where do you think you could tap those youths from? Because you are what the Americans will say, the new kid on the block. Alright, there will be other political parties joining later. Of course, we've seen that happen. But then there are established political parties already on the ground. How can you entice some of those militants to abandon their parties and join your bandwagon?
You see, Malik, the truth is, no political party can claim ownership of these young people. They own themselves. They are mere party militants. And they are militants for a reason, because they believe that in joining those parties should be able to address their needs, their wishes and aspirations. Now, if they come to realize that, look, for over 2 or so decades, they've been following political parties who have bombarded them with promises after promises, promises after promises, which are always met with failure, I'm sure it wouldn't be difficult if they begin to realize that this party, NPP, is actually initiating projects and programs to engage its militants. And not only are they engaging the militants, but the militants are being gainfully employed through these projects, and they are being able to take care of their families' needs and their own personal needs. They wouldn't need so much convincing to join the NPP, because they will realize this is a party that is focused on moving this country from another level. And in order to move the country from another level, that shouldn't be the business of government alone. Political parties are supposed to be national institutions and should be operated as such. Political parties cannot be the personal property or the private property of an individual. NPP cannot and will not be a party that will evolve around one person. And that is why we are saying that the funding of the party cannot be coming out of the pocket of one person. And the president knows that. He is the Secretary General and leader of the party, and he understands our principles. He understands our vision. He understands what we want to achieve for this party. And I am glad that he is 100% in support of that. Because you see, as soon as we talk about establishing a very strong, formidable, and committed fundraising committee, you can see he nods his head, because he knows this is the right way to go. Because he knows it shouldn't be his personal responsibility to be running the activities of the party, to be financing the operations of the party. That is wrong, and that is why NPP is going to be a party of a difference. It is not going to be a party that is being used, you know, to meet the financial needs of the so-called leader. NPP will be a party that is independent, that is self-sufficient, so much so that in a national congress, even Mambanyik can compete with President Barrow for the leadership of the party. This is what we intend to do, and this is how we intend to also lure these other young militants who are in other parties to join the NPP, with the full realization that this is the right party for now and for the future.
You are watching Road to State House. My guest is the Administrative Secretary of the National People's Party, NPP, Mr. Mambanyik. 1 year, 6 months to be very precise. Looks long, but it's not a long time. A National People's Party do not have time. How are you going to make up what has been lost due to COVID-19? I'm sure COVID-19 has been a deterrent, but how are you going to make up time?
Absolutely, Malik. You know, but the good thing also is that the COVID-19 has not only affected the NPP, it has affected basically all political parties. However, the other political parties have been here for so long, and probably that should be an advantage on their part. But you see, sometimes you can always utilize your disadvantage sometimes to your advantage, because we knew that we didn't know when the COVID-19 was going to end. And that's why we said to ourselves, look, should we just sit down and wait until this COVID goes away completely, or should we start doing something? And that's why within the lockdown, we are able to go around the country, obviously with also at the back of our mind that we needed to respect the rules and regulations that have been put in place in terms of, you know, protecting or you know, making sure that nobody was infected by this deadly COVID-19. We respected the guidelines, we respected the rules, the regulations, and then we worked through that to ensure that all these structures have been established. However, we, just like you do, know that we do not have time. But 1 year, 6 months is not also like, say, 6 months or 6 days. And we see the good thing also, Malik, is that our leader, the President of the Republic, has done a great deal of good for this party. Because, you know, if he has not been able to deliver what he had set out to deliver for the Gambian people, then it would have been a catastrophe. But you see, in terms of the democratization process, in terms of giving the people back their country, he's been able to do that 100%. He's a Democrat, a total Democrat, and that is why he has not been able to do anything that will run contrary to the dictates of the Constitution. He refused to do that. How many rulings have been made against him, against the government or against the party, but he will just take it in good faith. You know, these are things that are positive in terms of going forward. In terms of infrastructural development, you know, URR, for the past 50 years, URR has not benefited from a single road project. You know, CDA Jata, Honorable CDA Jata, since I knew him, has been harping on the need to transform or to at least improve on the infrastructure within the URR, particularly the road network. It was terrible, Malik. Now the President Barrow has come and made URR his priority, and that is good for our politics as well. If you look at Banjul, okay, in terms of votes, one may argue that Banjul does not have many votes. But if the country was a human being, it's like Banjul is the head. But you know, on the head is where you have the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, everything is located on the head. So if there's a problem with the head, the entire body becomes problematic. So that is why he thought that Banjul, even though in terms of vote, it's just, you know, not something that somebody could say, okay, I'm doing this because of the votes. But the fact that Banjul is the capital makes it even more important to invest those millions in the streets of Banjul. And now if I walk into Banjul, I feel proud that this is now what we call the capital city of the Gambia. So these are things that he's been able to achieve. In terms of also, you know, making sure that the economy is stable, in making sure that the dollar is stable against foreign currencies, they've done a great deal of job. This government has done a great deal of job. In terms of the capacity of GRA to be able to generate incomes, they have been able to do a fantastic job in that respect as well, Malik. Because you see, what they have done is that they've plucked all those leakages that were happening in the system, particularly in terms of GRA's ability to collect maximum funds. They've been able to block so many, you know, loopholes that were being used, you know, to siphon money out of the system. So these are things that have been good for the party. Even though the party is new, but the leader of the party has been in government for what? For, I think, a little over 3 years now. So it means the good job he's done is going to really help the party in terms of our electability in 2021.
You're administrative secretary, but you've just turned out propaganda-wise. I'm sure President Barrow would love to hear you paint him in those wonderful colors. In fact, they are very factual. Let me take you to your outreach. How are you reaching out to the people?
Yeah, you know, of course, we have these media programs like I'm doing now. You know, I have some other team members who are always on other medium trying to sell the agenda of the party. But most importantly, Malik, is that we are quickly working on a communication strategy for the party, which will be the basis for everything that this party is going to be talking about in the near future.
Branding, advocacy,
you know, everything will be captured in this communication strategy. But most importantly also is that we are on the verge of developing a documentary of all the projects that His Excellency President Barrow has been able to deliver to the Gambian people in terms of the roads, in terms of the boreholes, in terms of the bridges, in terms of
good governance.
Good governance. You know, these are things that we want to capture in a documentary, and I'm so hopefully, inshallah, you are going to play a very important role in that. Because we believe that you are a professional in your field, and you know we need professionalism in the NPP, and we wouldn't have an issue when Malik Jones offers himself to produce a documentary for the party, because we know that Malik has never been opposition. Malik has always been in support of a sitting government, and you know nobody can fault anybody for doing that. It's just like in many constituencies in this country, they are never opposition sympathizers. They are traditionally pro-government. You know, you go to the Funis, they supported Jawara, they supported Yaya Jammeh, and I'm sure they will support the NPP. You go to the Nyomes, you know, you go to CRR, you know, you go to URR. They have always been supportive of the sitting government, the ruling party, and that is also a strength on our part. And in terms of outreach, coming back to your question, also we don't want to say all the things that we are doing. But then it's good for our militants, for even those who are not our supporters, to understand that we are a party with a difference. Now, I have also, just yesterday, said that I'm going to contact all my regional chairpersons to ensure that every supporter of the party is registered. We are going to create a database of our militants, and from the village to the ward to the constituency to the regional level up to the national level, we'll have a database of our members and also our affiliates. You know, because we have so many groups that want to work with the NPP, and we just want to make sure that they are registered under the party as affiliates to the party, provided that their agenda, you know, is in line with the overall agenda of the National People's Party. And I believe that with what we are trying to achieve in terms of all these projects, in terms of women empowerment, in terms of, you know, horticulture, in terms of livestock, you know, this will resonate very well with most of these youth and women groups across the country, because, well, what they are trying to do is to help themselves, to create jobs for themselves, and to ensure that there's wealth creation for their groups, which the NPP can always support.
You have just mentioned a very important component of our electorate. The voter electorate in the Gambia is made up of 58% of women. And we're talking about gender equality here. What role will you ascribe to women in the decision-making process of the National People's Party?
Very good question. And you know, right now, I'm sure some people probably will argue that, yeah, the vice president is not a member of the NPP, but I can tell you, she is supporting 100% the agenda of the president and the agenda of the NPP, and she's not, you know, in any way, you know, hiding about that, or trying to you know, shy away from that fact. And apart from that, in our midst, we have a lot of women of influence, women who can help move this party forward. But in turn also, the party has some tangible projects and proposals to empower the women of this country. And by next week, I want to have a very fruitful meeting with the women's wing. I will gather some of the women in the office to ask them, now if the NPP were to come up with interventions in order to empower the women, which areas do you think the party should focus on? Because sometimes also when you plan with the people. You need to understand what their needs are. You need to understand, you know, what areas they would want the party to intervene. So we don't want to do this in isolation. And in fact, Malik, it will be foolhardy for any party to do what you're doing without, you know, taking the women seriously. Because to tell you the truth, they are the most serious politicians I have ever known, the women. If they are committed to something, they go 100%. And for them, failure is not an option. So this category of, this group of people, you cannot succeed without them. And we know that. And you see, most of the women also like one thing about the president is about his simplicity, his humility, and the fact that you know, he's soft talking. You know, he's not the type who just comes and just, you know,
bulldozes.
Exactly, or break the glasses, so to speak. He, you know, for that reason, the women, the elderly, even the religious groups, they respect him for that reason, because they believe that here is a president who is so peaceful, so much so that he doesn't even want to say any word that will offend another individual. So for us, that is what is making life easy for us, particularly in terms of mobilizing the young people and the women, but also even the elderly people. Because you go to most of these elderly people, they'll tell you, no, xam nga yéen president bi ngeen am dafa yaru. You know, so that alone says a lot. Dafa yaru.
Is that a plus?
It's a big plus. Because for the people, because imagine this is a president who could have said, look, it was the people that has given me this mandate. It was the people that have given me this responsibility to control the soldiers, to control the police officers, to appoint judges. But it could have been different. But he said, no, this is power that belonged to the people, but they ceded that power to me, not to come and molest them or to jail them unfairly, or to start, you know, prosecuting them unfairly. But he said, no, I have to treat them as decent human beings, decent Gambians who deserve, you know, all the goodies in this world. And that is a plus for us, Malik. You go anywhere in this country, they will tell you, Allah president, you know, akulutale, dafayaro, one day nedi. You know, these things being said by the local people is a plus, Malik.
Let me turn your attention to the political climate as of now. We are talking about close to 14 political parties, all vying or all on the road to State House, which is the name of this program of mine, the road to State House. Is that a challenge to the National People's Party?
Absolutely not. You know, I have been in politics in this country for quite a long time now, Malik. I joined the NRP in 1997. I guess at the time I was just 22. And since then I have seen parties registered in this country and they've never put up a presidential candidate. They just sit there and wait for an opportunity to walk into an alliance or a coalition with the hope that at the end of the day they can have 1 or 2 ministerial positions. That should not be the fundamental reason why a political party is established. A political party must be established based on principles. Principles that you believe that there is something that you can offer in terms of moving this country from say ground zero to ground 15, to level 15. Now, I can tell you that most of these political parties that are being registered today know very well that probably they will not even have 1,000 votes nationally. You know why? Because most of them did not go through the normal process of having a party registered. Normal process by virtue of the fact that most of them did not go to the electorate to have them nominate their party for registration, because that is one of the conditions for the registration of the party, that you have to have at least 10,000 registered voters to sign your nomination to say they are in support of the registration of a particular political party. Most of these parties do not go to the people. What they do, because most of them have this voter register, what they do, they go there, sit in the comfort of their houses and register as many names as possible with all these voter registration numbers, and let's just go and look for a stamp pad and a pen and sign as many names as possible and stamp as many as possible and go and deliver that to the IEC.
And that is fraudulent.
And that is fraudulent, and you believe you have a political party. You haven't. And trust me, some of these parties, even if they were to put up presidential candidates, you will hear some of them having zeros in some constituencies because they don't have what it takes to win an election.
What it takes to win an election in the Gambia is to, and this is from my experience as well, for having covered elections or election nights for a very long time. 40% of KM and West Coast gives you the presidency. Are you thinking of that?
Absolutely. And you know, it all boils down to how well you can deliver to the Gambian people, one. Number two, how seriously, if you are an opposition party, how seriously you can sell the agenda of your party in terms of the type of policies you have, the type of strategies you have, and the type of programs you want to implement if you were to be elected.
Your programs will be bought by KM and WCR.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you see, too often you look at the debates in our media, you hardly hear people talking about the programs and policies that their parties seek to implement if they were to be elected into office. It's all about personality attacks. It's all about character assassination. It's all about, you know, talking about one person. And I believe the Gambian people have graduated from that kind of politics. You know, because so many people are now educated, so many people know what they want for this country, so many people know that the time has passed when politicians will just come and talk and, you know, make so many rhetorics and will deliver nothing. And you know, NPP, I have already said that, see, the mere fact, even though it is not an NPP government, but the leadership of the government is the leader of the NPP, has been able to deliver absolute democracy to the people. You see, when people sit in any medium in this country and say, you know, it's like we are gradually drifting back to dictatorship, that, you know, it's like what used to be here is what is still existing. You know why they're saying that? Because some of these people are so narrow-minded that for them, change means anybody who has ever worked with Yahya Jammeh, regardless of whether you were working for the government or not, you shouldn't be employed by this current government. For them, that is what change means to them. But they're absolutely wrong. Those people that have worked under Yaya Jammeh work for the Gambia government, the government of the Gambia. If we were to say that anybody who might have worked with Yaya Jammeh should not be employed or should be removed from their position, then all the permanent secretaries, all the directors, all the deputy permanent secretaries, principal assistant secretaries, all of them should have been removed because they worked under Yaya Jammeh. But what they didn't realize is that they worked on and for the Gambia government. That belongs to the Gambian people. So you see, for that reason, I would always argue that their vision is kind of myopic. Because you see, it should not be about what Yaya Jammeh did in terms of the bad things, but it also should be about what he did in terms of the good things.
Of which we should build upon.
Exactly. The bad things are things that we should also learn from in order not to repeat them. But not just to say because President Barrow appoints somebody who used to work with Yaya Jammeh, that means we are drifting back to dictatorship. That is fallacy. There's nothing that could be more false than that, because it's all geared towards misleading the people. But you see, the Gambian people are the final judge, and they know that that man that is occupying that seat is delivering every aspect that we anticipated from him, and that ranges from infrastructural development, good governance, maintenance of democratic principles, you know, in terms of, you know, improving the economy. You know, it's going to be a gradual process. It's going to take time, but it's happening. Whether people like to see it or not, that's another thing. But it's happening, and the majority of the Gambians know that it is happening. So for us, we are open to criticism, but we want it to be constructive criticism. This shouldn't be personal. And I have seen that our political debate has now become so personal that people can sit in the comfort of their rooms, have their malotangal in the morning, drink their cold water, you know, just record themselves, you know, through WhatsApp and castigate a particular person, you know, and most of these things are fabrications. But even I believe that if you have had an issue with Malik, it would have been manly to sit with Malik one-on-one to address those issues, rather than just say, let me just destroy Malik's character. But there are people whose character you can never destroy, because their skins are thicker than a buffalo, and the more you talk about them, the greater you make them become. And most of the time they would even have the time to respond, because me, I don't respond to people like that. I just pray for them to have that ample time to be able to insult me more, when I pray for myself to have that ample time to continue to deliver the goods to the Gambian people, Malik.
Some political actors are afraid of the 50+1, which is in the new, which is in the draft constitution, which we are about to take to the referendum. Is that a concern to the National People's Party?
No, actually for us, Malik, whether it is first past the post or 50+1, for us is all the same.
What are the options?
Because we know that if it is first past the post, we are going to defeat them big time. If you say that, some people will have their heads blushing, but that is reality, is the fact. In terms of 50+1, the reason why we don't have an issue with it is because it gives you more credibility, it gives you more, even a clearer mandate to be able to govern this country, because you know you are ruling with the majority. So therefore for us, any option is okay with us. We are prepared for both. So we don't have a problem whether it is the 1997 constitution or this proposed new constitution. Any one of them will do for the NPP, because we have the support base. Malik, we must not lose sight of the fact that it was the people themselves who urged the president to register this political party. So therefore this party belongs to the people.
What is top on your agenda, the agenda of the National People's Party? Name me 3 items which are top on your agenda.
1 is delivering services to the Gambian people, and services, by services I mean, you know, pipe-borne water, because Malik, there are so many communities in this country that are struggling to get clean drinking water. And that should not be politics. That should be about development. In fact, politics is about delivering development to your people. Secondly, employment creation for our youth folk. They need to be engaged and engaged positively. Because I have always argued that if we fail to engage the young people positively, the devils will engage them negatively. And that is not going to be good for this country. And how do we do that? Is to ensure that the productive sectors of the economy. Look, Malik, I have always argued that this country is not poor. Poverty is the state of mind, is the mindset. If you believe you are poor, you will die poor. Imagine, just this morning I was talking to my Fuller brother. I said to him, you will see a Fuller man with 200 heads of cattle, but he still considers himself as a poor person. What an irony. Somebody with 200 heads of cattle still considers himself as a poor person. He lives in huts, you know, he doesn't even dress properly, he doesn't probably eat good food, he doesn't even want to build a good house because the mindset tells them that they are poor. We have fresh water across the country. We have our sea. We have arable land, and we have a young population. If we have our strategies right, and not only having these strategies, but also having the right mindset and the right attitude towards the implementation of those strategies, we can transform this country in no time to a very wealthy nation.
Your critics are saying that the president doesn't have the right advisors surrounding him. What is your take on that?
Well, I have not been present when they are delivering any sort of advice to him, but I know that so many people believe, just like you said, that the advisors are not doing a great job for him. But that is for him to decide, because he is the chief executive, he appointed them, and I'm sure if he knows, if he is convinced that they have overlived their usefulness, I guess he's going to make the right changes, because he's done that and he's proven to everybody that he is not afraid to hit the iron when it is hot. He's proven beyond all reasonable doubt that when the need arises, he's not afraid to take the most controversial decision. He has done that time and time again, and I have no doubt that once he is convinced that these advisors are no longer offering useful services to him and to the nation, he is going to remove them. But until that is done, I believe somehow that even if not 100%, they're doing some kind of good job for the man.
Sell the National People's Party to me. Why should I vote for the National People's Party?
One, because Malik, you as a journalist, that's where I will start from, today can invite any kind of character in your program without fear of reprisals. That you can sit here on this platform and criticize this government all you want, and even criticize the president himself without fear of reprisal, knowing that you will go back to your house with your family and have a sound sleep. The democratic space alone that he has created is one good reason for anybody who really wishes this country well to support him. Not to say I have joined the NPP, but I am going to support him to deliver the agenda of government to the Gambian people. The other thing, Malik, I've already cited the fact that you are a journalist and now you can do your job, you know, without fear of any reprisals. The other thing, Malik, is that regardless of where you live in this country, I know you're from Banjul, but if I were to convince you as a Banjulian, I'll tell you that, you know, for the past 3 decades, Banjul has been a mess. And this is the capital we're talking about. You know, there were times when I used to cross from Bara. When I get to the
Wellington Street?
Wellington Street.
Yeah, okay.
I had to, Liberation Avenue now, I had to pay somebody to carry me shoulder high for me to cross Wellington Street to get to the Bank PHB.
Okay.
Or to go to GRA. Otherwise, I'll have to pay a porter with a wheelbarrow. Now that is history. What we need to do now is to just keep Banjul clean. As a Banjulian, I would use that to convince you. But as a Gambian in general, the man has done a great deal of job in this country. I've already talked about the democratic space. I've already talked about the infrastructure. I've already talked about that he has done exceptionally well in making sure that the economy is stable, the dalasi is very much stable, you know, vis-a-vis the hard currencies. And all this is because, you know, our development partners have the confidence in this government, and they want to do business with this government. And more so, the GRA, which is a very important institution in this country, is on a monthly basis is generating billions of dollars. Why? Because the government was able to, you know, block all those loopholes that I've mentioned earlier to ensure that they maximize, you know, revenue generation in this country. So Malik, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So for that reason, you, Malik, should join the NPP.
Who are your main contenders come 2021? Who are you going to say that these are my main rivals?
I know my friends will give us sleepless nights at the UDP. You know, regardless of what you say about them, they are a force to be reckoned with because they've been here for ages. They've been here since 1996. So you cannot just brush them aside, you know. So, but, well, maybe GDC somehow, but that will be proven in 2021. But of course, our biggest challenge will be my yellow friends, really.
Not the green ones.
The green ones, you know, not exactly, really. You know, Malik, most of the supporters of the APRC, like I said, are traditional supporters of ruling parties. They need to understand that the APRC was established by the PPP. Because when Yahya Jammeh overthrew the Jawara government, for 2 years, he succeeded in, you know, adopting, you know, the influential people within the PPP at the time, and they helped him to establish the APRC. And those stood with him. They fall and rose with him through the years. And now that they have come to realize that Yaya's time is over, he's done whatever he could have done. So now it's now time to support the government of the day. And this is going to happen, and it is definitely going to manifest in the 2021 elections. Nobody is saying that the APRC is going to die. No, that's never going to happen. But most of their supporters are definitely going to migrate to the NPP.
On a final note, what will be your message to the electorate as we move on towards 2021?
My message, in principle, would be that let them not allow people to polarize this country, you know, through party politics. Because there's no such thing like UDP Gambia. There's no such thing like NPP Gambia, DOI Gambia, GDC Gambia, or GPDP Gambia. There's the Republic of the Gambia. We rise and fall together as a nation. And for that reason, the way we conduct ourselves, both in political rallies and even in platforms like this, must be such that the people that are watching and listening must be able to learn some values from us, the politicians. That they should be able to distinguish between parties that have a national agenda and parties that do not have a national agenda. Parties that are just bent on, you know, character assassinating people, insulting, and just, you know, throwing stones at everything that the government does. You see, Malik, sometimes I may not be in your good books, or you may not be in my good books. But as a human being and as a Gambian, sometimes I need to sit down and reflect and to ask myself what Malik is saying, even though I do not like him, but probably he's making a valid point. that warrant my attention. But if, because of my hatred for you, even if you're making a valid point, I make it look as if it is a toxic view, or it is something that is bad, that can kill anybody, then I am not being honest to myself, and I am not being honest to Malik and to the Gambian people. And the Gambian people must understand that development is an ongoing process. It never ends. Yaya Jammeh did his part. He stopped somewhere. Barrow has taken over the baton, and at some point President Barrow is going to stop and somebody is going to take over the baton from him. So it's an ongoing process, and the president is doing everything he can to ensure that this country is respected within the Committee of Nations. Every Gambian is respected first as a human being, and second as a Gambian, before even considering political affiliation and some other considerations. So I would advise, particularly the young people, that they must not allow anybody to use them to polarize this country, that they have to be objective. They can listen to anybody, they can listen to every politician, but let them be their own judges. Let them be able to assess what they have heard and make informed choices and decisions from what they have heard. We can move this country from a third world to a first world. But trust me, it's not abracadabra. It's hard work, it's focus, it's determination. And most importantly, it's unity of purpose that will get us to where we want to be.
Ambaji, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you on Road to State House. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Malik. The pleasure is mine.
That was the Secretary General, the Administrative Secretary, by the way, of the National People's Party, NPP, Mambajik. He was talking to me, Malik Jones, on the program Road to State House. Until next week, have a good night and bye-bye.